Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the PT Podcast, brought to you by Crossroads Community Church in Lindale, Texas. I'm your host, PT, with my podcasting partners of today, which look a little different today. I've got to be honest with you. A little bit prettier, a little bit more feminine. We have to my left, if you were in the thing, it would be the replacement for the Irishman, Todd Bergen, who is in Arkansas enjoying a well-deserved break. And so filling in for Todd, we are joined today with Megan May Haskett. Say hi, Megan.
Hi.
There, she's new, folks. Give her just a second.
Say hi, Megan, so I'm not going to say hi myself.
She's calling me out.
Hi, Megan. Hi.
Hi, May. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Megan May Haskett. May. And then to my right is this gorgeous man. And I would not call very many other people gorgeous. We call him the bald beauty. Steve Howard. What's going on, Steve?
Hey, y'all doing, guys?
There's that peeking thing again.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't hug that mic, man. You're powerful enough.
I love the mic.
I know you do.
The mic loves me.
You've loved the mic for years. All right, so we've got a lot to cover today. Today we're going to tackle huge. I wish I had Trump. Huge. I can't do him. But it's probably the best topic ever. A lot of people say it's the best topic ever, and I'm just kidding. That was another Trumpism. I'm going to stop while I'm ahead. So
it's the best topic we've ever heard in our life.
A lot of people are saying it's the best thing that's ever happened. That's his exaggeratives. Anyways, it's a big subject. It's incredibly relevant for the times that we're living in right now. And we're going to talk about worry, doubt, and the fear of the unknown. So I was kind of curious about the subject and kind of when we first started thinking about doing this podcast, the subject today, I went and looked up the top things that we worry about in 2021. And believe it or not, there are studies about every individual year out there about the things. And if you look back at 2019, I think it's kind of comical to look back at 2019 and see how things have changed over the narrative. But that's a whole nother podcast. Yeah. According to Statista.com, the website of Statista Research Department, they conducted a survey of 19,000 people online worldwide in the age groups of 19 to 74 on what they felt was the most worrisome topics in 2021. So here are the top 10 things that people are worried about in 2021. You ready for this, everybody? You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so number 10, immigration control.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have any music for immigration, but that's scary, I guess. Are y'all worried about immigration control?
Yes.
Building the wall? that's not one of those things that I'm really concerned about. I don't know why. I just am not too concerned about it.
I am.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I build a wall, don't build a wall. I don't care. It's not one of those things that I'm really concerned about. I guess I just don't care.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm just being real. Okay. I mean, I'm one of those.
That's fair.
Number 9, climate change.
Don't give a rip about that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Why you say that's interesting, Megan?
Because I'm kind of like you for immigration control. I don't really care. I can't do anything about that. So,
I don't know. Obviously, there are cycles in the earth and things are going to happen. Right. So I know that people think that this is a new circumstance, but does anybody remember what they say happened to the dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Just saying. So, I mean, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
As long as I still see that rainbow, I'm okay.
Well, the Bible says he's going to destroy the earth.
Yeah, but
it's not going to be water, and it ain't going to be ice this time.
Yeah.
So, just saying. All right, 8. I think everybody can.
Fire.
8 is taxes. Yeah, I know for a fact. I don't like that word at all.
I'm really scared with all that extra taxes we're going to have this year.
Nothing strikes fear into the heart of people like receiving an IRS letter in the mail.
Yeah.
It's just it's not godly. All right, number 7, education. Okay, if you have kids, you're probably going to think. Now, 3 of us in this room are familiar with our cares and concerns about the education system. Like, you've got critical race theory that's being proposed. You got Common Core stuff, and some of the stuff that they're starting to teach now, and literally erasing history. I can understand why people would think, all right, this is something to be concerned about. All right, number 6, healthcare. You guys worried about that?
Somewhat.
Yeah, I mean,
not
I
this
understand
moment.
why people are concerned about that.
Well, I mean, obviously, with things that are going on, you don't want to end up in the hospital with no health care at this point. I'm just saying that's something that, especially if you like security, you want to be able to walk into a hospital and get cared and not worry about a $2 billion bill that's going to be at your doorstep. And then you would really. So anyways, number 5, crime and violence. This seems to be universal with pretty much every year since about 1950 something. So crime and violence, I would say, is pretty financial and political corruption. Would you guys say that that's something that you're?
Yes.
But here's the interesting note. This isn't just in America. This is worldwide. Oh. So they're worried about crime and violence everywhere. They're worried about financial and political corruption as well. Huh. I just watched a special on Afghanistan, and they're really concerned, obviously, or they were when the documentary was being made about the political corruption with the Taliban, and now they're starting to take over. Yeah. So that's a big thing. All right, number 3, poverty and social inequality. I'm putting that up there with, climate change. Of course, I would say that if we were facing poverty,
it'd be a different story.
Yeah, the other countries are in a different place.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Very good point. Yeah. America just really doesn't know what that means.
They're just trying to put us in that same place, and that's what I don't like.
Well, I think some of us put ourselves in that place. I'm just saying. Well, that's a whole other podcast. All right. Number 2, unemployment. If you are, were you guys worried about that?
No, but I mean, over the past 2 years, look at what's happened. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And then, of course, we got number 1, which is COVID-19. Yeah. I really don't like that word anymore. The Rona, the vid, whatever. Corona. And, I used to be one of those guys. Last year, I was one of those guys that was just like, I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's really doing anything. I think it's just and now that I have a wife that's working on the front lines and is seeing it, she's like, oh yeah.
It's a real deal.
It's killing people.
Well, here's my question. Are you more concerned about COVID than anything else on the list, though?
No.
Okay. That's just out of curiosity.
I think it really depends on your worldview.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say if your mom, gets it, my parents get it, I think that'd probably shoot on up to number 1. And so I would think with as many people that have been affected by COVID-19, I mean, I could see how that would be a fear. So, I mean, these all make sense in the culture that we live in, but I kind of want to go a little bit deeper and a little more personal. So, what are things that we worry about? What are things that specifically us? So I asked you guys, obviously yesterday, to construct a top 5 things that we worry about list. I constructed a list of my own, and we're going to share those right now, starting with the bald beauty himself.
Steve?
That's right, Steve. So what are 5 things that you find?
My name is Steve.
Yeah. What do you find yourself worrying about?
Steve?
Steve. Well,
Steve?
Sorry,
so
Steve.
Like what you just talked about, all the junk, another word for it could come to mind as well, that's going on in America right now it affects everybody. Because of what's going on, I'm afraid of what might happen. Will we receive another attack from the enemy? And then they're just printing money like it's nothing. I mean, am I going to be able to keep a job?
So that's number 5. You're worried about the world system as it's.
Yeah, it's just like it's, but I know God is bigger. He takes care of his own. So, I mean, I know where my trust is and my faith is. So I don't let it, consume me, but however, it is a concern.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Especially because it's, this affects my children and their children's children. So all the junk that's going on. And the reason why I am concerned about the immigrants coming in here is because of all the violence they bring, and they're bringing all the drugs, and they're bringing a lot of stuff that is harmful. That's also going to be harmful to this generation, the next generation. There are good people that are coming, over that want to just have a better life. I understand, but there's also a lot of not so good people that are coming over that have other alternatives.
Yeah, I feel like that if you got good intentions, then you can come through legally, and
that's what I'm saying. That's why we have a legal system.
So I can get that. All right, that was number. So
I'm good with immigration. Just 4? Do it the right way.
So immigration is number 4.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3.
Okay, so that's just all the junk that's going on in America. That's my number 1.
Number 5. Okay.
Provision for my family. Just making sure that I can provide for my family. I'm commission based, so it's finding people and helping people and hoping I can help enough people to help my family. So
number 4 is provision.
Provision, yeah.
Okay, number 3.
And then my children's relationship with God.
Good.
I am very concerned because I have some children that have many questions about God, and they're not. Even though at one time their faith may have been with Jesus, they're kind of following what the world is teaching of religion and stuff like that, and they're looking for the answers, and in the process they're just saying that right now they don't want to believe in God.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So that's cause for concern. Okay. So number 3,
because every parent, their biggest thing is they want to see their child in heaven.
That's true.
And
so that's number 3.
That's number 3
your
for
kids'
me.
relationships with God.
And then
number 2.
I'm always concerned that something might happen to one of my family members.
So death and family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially if something happened to one of my family members that I know haven't surrendered back to the Lord, and stuff like that. That's a concern.
Okay. That was number 2. What's number 1? The big one.
The big one. Being the best father I can to my children.
Okay. Wow. Those are deep, dude.
Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure that my kids know that I care about what they care about,
right.
And I want to be the best father I can, and to guide them to the best of my ability through Jesus's help, because we all know we can't do it right. On our own.
These are really good answers to those, and obviously are things that I think all of us can identify if we're similar at all. Most of those things we can identify with. So thanks for sharing your heart, dude. That's those are deep. All right. Well, first of all, let me say thanks, May, for coming in here and filling in for the Irishman. And you're a lot easier to look at than the Irishman.
Thank you.
and a lot more pleasant to listen to, I have to say.
Yeah, she's got that nice, pleasant voice.
Not that Todd doesn't sound good, but he's not here and we could talk bad about him. So,
so what are you going to say about me next week when I'm not here?
Don't you want to know?
Oh, yeah.
You'll find out.
That's none of your dang business.
Listen to the podcast.
So, Megan, I know you're not that much of a worrier, but what do you find yourself worrying about when you do worry?
Everything. Everything. I'm kidding. I try not to worry. Emphasis on try. So yeah, right. Shocker. Anybody that knows me knows that I worry.
They're concerns. They're not worries.
Yeah, they're concerns. They're not worries. Yeah, big fail. Okay, so if I have to narrow it down to 5, just 5, which I came up with pretty quickly, by the way, I would say. So we're going in ascending order. Descending order.
Well, the top
start with
is
5 and go with 1.
That's right. Like any top 10 list via Dave Letterman, you have to start with the least funny to the best funny and the biggest punchline. So we're from the order of least to greatest importance.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So,
That's okay.
I think you did it.
They're all important.
I think you did it though.
There you go. They're all important.
They're all well. That would be a cop out. All right. So, anyways, go ahead, May.
So probably number 5, I would think would be probably. And this is petty, but nonetheless,
can't do that.
Worry.
You're not allowed to do that. Go ahead.
It's my worry. I can
That's
do what
right.
I want.
You can do what you want if you want to.
It's my worry.
Okay, so number 5. Anyway, moving along. Probably because this is something I've struggled with for a very long time. The perception that other people have of me. So their opinions and their thoughts, and that's been really big over the past 2 years. It's kind of grown for reasons, but I'm struggling with that and I'm overcoming. So that's number 5. Number 4. Now, just so everybody knows, I don't have a family and I don't have kids, so mine aren't going to be as.
She's a bit young yet.
Yeah.
She's going to work that, eventually. But
eventually,
yeah, maybe we're going to speak that over her life, eventually. But go ahead.
So that was number 5. Oh, I lied. Number 5 is failure, actually. That's number 5. Is
Okay.
failure.
Oh, yeah.
Number
I don't
5 is
have mine in
failure.
order. Yeah. Okay, so number 5 is failure. Number 4 is the perception that other people have of me,
Okay.
their thoughts and opinions. Number 3 is probably going to be, I would say, maybe the fear of the unknown, just in general, like things that can happen that I have no control over.
That can haunt you in the night.
Yeah, that.
Fear of the
That's creepy.
unknown.
I got to have fear of Tim haunting me in the night.
Unknown.
I have fear of Tim haunting me at night too.
So I would say that's number 3. Number 2, and then we get down to the normal ones that everybody else has. Number 2 would be government. That's a huge one right now. Everything
Yep.
going on, it's really scary, and I just can't let myself dwell on stuff like that.
True. Anytime you say government, it's all,
Yeah, I know, right?
at this point,
It's like,
is there any government in the world that is trustworthy?
No.
I just don't think so. I just
No.
don't think so. So very based. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so that's number 2, and of course you can lump Taliban, you can lump everything going on right now
Yes.
into that. So, and then the first one would be finances, and that's something that has been drilled into me since I was very young. So that's number 1 for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Finances is number 1.
finances at your age. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But hey, man, you and I we're the breed that's like throw caution to the wind. We're gonna go and eat like a
Gotta work it
$3,000
out.
steak, and
No.
stuff like that. There's other people out there that are like, nope, penny pinch and don't spend anything. And I don't know if she falls into that category, but I'm just saying you and we used to do that at Southwestern. We'd go and even though we only had $2 in our pocket, we'd go and pay for a buffet at CC's and
No.
have eating contest with Matt Haynes. So
No.
Matt, if you're listening, I'm half the man I am today because of you.
Yep.
Can't believe him. All right. Number 5 for me is health. I generally back until 2018 or 2017, really, I started having complications with my health and figured out how precious it was. And with some issues that were going on in my life, it became a lot more apparent that there needed to be some changes that were necessary. And so, lost about 130 pounds. And it was not an option. I had to do it for other things to happen. I had a hernia, abdominal hernia called Hector that we lovingly called Hector. That's right. Hector the hernia. He's gone. He's dead. We've killed him.
Amen.
And we are still living the healthier life as it stands. But
right.
Still a concern, with bearing repercussions of your past decisions. Sometimes you think about that. Number 4, I'm also concerned about the world and where it's headed. I think there's not a lot of things I can do to control it. I can choose to try to, absolutely. Yeah. But even then, I've acquiesced and given my control to someone else. So there's not a lot of things that, prayer is not manipulation. It isn't telling God what he needs to do and then making him do it. It's trusting him with something. And so I'm saying, yes, I'm concerned and it makes me worry. Anytime that I gather around people that are talking about the world stuff, the world system, whether it be on the conspiratorial end or if it's on, the news, I find myself going into that stuff. So number 3, I worry about the church, the people inside the church.
Yeah,
they're my kids, extended kids.
Yeah.
But that
You're the
leads,
shepherd.
number 2 is my family. Then that's extended in everything. I find myself a lot of times at night, especially when I'm like last night, 2:45 in the morning, waking up and feeling like I need to pray for family. And so that's something. And then number 1, I was going to say Jesus, but that he is a concern. I want to please him, but I'm not going to say that he's a worry of mine. I am going to say that rejection probably tops the list on me.
Oh, wow.
That's a good one.
I don't like rejection, and so it feeds into a lot of the decisions that I make.
Nobody does.
And I'm a people pleaser. And so one of the worst things that I find myself doing is contemplating how it's going to be when somebody leaves or when somebody exits a relationship.
Yeah.
I hate rejection. When you say rejection, my heart goes, Yeah, it's like, no, so don't do it.
Yeah.
So looking at those things, all of us have great answers, by the way, guys. I want to go to our scripture for today. It's Matthew chapter 6. He's teaching on the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus is, I found who better to go to than Jesus for this stuff. There's other scriptures, obviously, in the Bible. I'm sure we'll get to those things. But he doesn't start. He's in the middle of it. And he says in Matthew 6, verse 24, that's where we're going to start. No one can serve two masters, for he either will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. Verse 25, for this reason I say to you, do not be worried about your life as to what you will eat or what you will drink, nor for your body as to what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, that they do not sow, nor reap, nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more worthy than they? And who of you by being worried can add a single hour to his life? And why are you worried about clothing? Observe how the lilies of the field grow. They don't toil, they don't spin. Yet I say to you that not even Solomon in all of his glory clothed himself like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which is alive today and tomorrow is thrown into the furnace, will he not much more clothe you, you of little faith? Do not worry then, saying, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or what will we wear for clothing? For the Gentiles eagerly seek all these things, for your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. But seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. In verse 34, so do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will care for itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. And so I thought in my heart of hearts, we were originally going to do this with just three of us, but I needed to bring in the big guns for this one, because when we're talking about worry, doubt, and fear of the unknown, there's just, you've got to have some big guns. So guess what, guys? We're incredibly blessed.
A visitor has come.
A visitor has come. I wanted to pull out all the stops, with the Irishman gone and all that stuff. So our guest this week has a doctorate of Christian counseling and is without a doubt one of the greatest people I know in my life.
Of course.
Of course. She teaches at Colorado Theological Seminary and has several years of experience dealing and counseling individuals in life. I can honestly say, literally say that without her, I would not be who I am today. She also obviously happens to be my mother, and she is here with us. Y'all give it up for Dr. Carla Letsch.
Yay!
Welcome.
That's right. Welcome, Dr. Carla.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. Just because I'm used to it. If I slip and call you Mom,
It's okay. I have lots of people call me Mom.
call you Dr. Mom.
Dr. Mom.
Dr. Mom. I kind of like that. We need to write. That's probably what needs to be your lead in. Dr. Mom. Dr. Mom. All right. So that sounds like a superhero, to be honest with you. Like the ultimate mommy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you remember that? Yeah, you remember that.
Very
so
well.
That's an inside joke for those of you at home. I used to be a wrestling fan, and Mom would start to mess around with me and my brother, and she would go, "I'm the ultimate mommy." And
Awesome.
Yeah, so it was great.
We had good times.
We
Good
did.
times.
We did. And I would say that I know that you are familiar with some of these things that we've been talking about. She's been in the room the whole time. She's been quiet and listening and learning and dissecting us in her mind.
Oh boy.
That is not how I do.
I hope not.
But go ahead and I know you've been listening. So what are your top 5 things that you worry about?
Amazingly, I was drawn to how common they're very close and very similar in their worries and what concerns us.
Oh, yeah.
Mine are I think as you age, they may shift places, but they kind of all stay pretty much the same. My number 5 is health, because I've been through some things with Doug, mostly Doug's health, and I know I'm pretty healthy, so I don't really worry too much about me. I don't have any real scary things in my life.
Isn't that amazing?
That's
That's common. I feel that same way too, where everybody else is more important.
Right.
And we'll talk about that just a little bit, but
that's okay. I worry about health of him first, me and my family, the kids. I worry about the kids a lot. I worry about especially things like that I can't, like everybody else, I can't control. So I want to control things in that area, but I know I can't, so I have to give that to God. The other thing is work. that's a big issue. That's number 4 probably is am I doing good? Am I doing a good job?
Performance.
Performance anxiety. I have a lot of that. I get real tense when I like this kind of thing because I want to be perfect and do it right and not bring reproach to the Lord and not say the wrong things. But I just have to leave that to God as well. There's a theme here. I'm having to leave everything to God. Yeah. Finances, as I get older, and they talk about no Social Security being there and something that you've paid into for your entire life, and your husband has worked since he was 8 years old and paid in, and now it's not going to be there. And so I get a little bit of anxiety about that. I am concerned about the future of the world. At times, I try to isolate myself as much as possible from news.
Turn it off.
Because all I need is the headlines, and then I've got my dose of anxiety.
It's like sinking sand. Quicksand.
That's my dose of anxiety for today, and then I turn it off because I just can't. I find other things to think about. I read a lot, or I try to focus elsewhere.
But it doesn't, obviously, because it's number 2.
Right. It's a big deal.
Sure.
Well, it's a big deal because because everyone that you run into, it's the first thing out of their mouth. It's either about the COVID thing or the state of the world, and the immigration. I can see why people, because I just read my headlines this morning, and it was about them bringing these people unvetted into our country and giving them freedom to just go. And of course, I'm thinking it's almost 9/11. Oh no! And you can really get caught up into that.
Yes.
Well, sure. You think a little bit of that is by design? I mean,
I do believe it's a trick. I believe that it is a gimmick that Satan uses his people to.
The prince of the power of the
air, right?
Airwaves.
He tries to try. He does. It's like I said Sunday. He's roaring. He roars a lot, and we hear that sometimes more than we do the still small voice of God. So we have to tune that kind of out and think, no, the louder it is, the less I believe it. And
wow,
that's interesting.
Because I know that God is speaking in the background, going, "I'm still over here. Hello, I belong here. I'm still in charge. I still have power. You just have to put your faith in me, because I'm the only one that does have any kind of control. Really, And my number one fear, though, is really, and it ties in with the performance thing, is I worry a lot about how my testimony, what I come across to people as. Am I representing Christ? Am I really a little Jesus? Am I giving that impression to people? Is my testimony worthy of the title Christian? That really sticks in my head a lot, because I worry about that. And I know I don't need to worry about it because I've lived my entire life for the Lord. But there's just those moments where you just go, oh, am I really a good representation of that?
I think a lot of these worries, if I'm being honest, it just coming from the background of what we've lived through. I mean, I listen to Steve. I know what he's come through, and that's not public knowledge for everybody that's out there. But I'm just going, I can see the thread of how these worries are developed through our lives. And I think a lot of the reasons why Mom and I, Dr. Mom and I are similar is because I have that common thread of, I was raised in the home with her. And so I have adopted some of those things. And I think you as well, Steve, I know, with your family, I know that you have some things that you've adopted.
Yeah.
I know family's huge, important.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and fear of failure was one of my tops before I went through everything I went through, and then I lost everything I was afraid of, and ever since then, that fear is gone because I've already lived out that fear and realized, hey, I can come out on the other side, and God is just he made me better.
Yeah, but the worry is real. I mean,
Sure.
With all of those things, I mean, like with you, you're talking about the financial and obviously some of us at this table, if not all of us, except for, and I'm not saying that you're the odd man, you're just young. All of us are over the age of 40, except for Bebe.
I'm a baby.
And so you haven't experienced those times where, I'm not saying that you haven't experienced them, but I'm saying that like those of us that have looked a bankruptcy in the face or have looked a repossession or something, and I can understand the worry. If just look at those things going, I don't think I'll ever come out of this. But Mom, Dr. Mom, you're touching on things here about worry and, being, and I really appreciate your realness here. I appreciate the fact that you're being honest and open about where you're at. But as far as a people in this nation, do you think a lot of these things, and when I said I think it's by design, do you think a lot of these things are driven by a narrative, or do you think they're driven by a people that, because I've heard even in regular conversation with friends of mine that there is an open desire to make sure that there's a division within the ranks of what we would call the bride of Christ, the church.
Sure.
Do you think, and I'm not trying to assign anything to government. What I'm saying is, obviously we know the Bible says that the battle's not against flesh and blood. Do you think that worry is part of that aspect of division? Do you think worry sometimes plays a factor in our divisiveness?
I do. I believe that what you believe deep down is used against you a lot. In saying that, I think that people put their trust in their governments. Often they're misguided, and they expect their government to be the solution to their problem, and that causes that belief. That's what causes the worry. When you see your government collapsing, you can start to worry if that's where your trust has been. Yeah. In America especially, we've had it really good for over 200 years, and we kind of forgotten that government's not where our hope is if you're a Christian. And
do you think it's always been the government, or do you think that it's slowly evolved into a trust in the government?
I don't believe it was always that way, because I think in the early years, everybody had to struggle. Everybody fought, for what they had and what. I think that we're becoming more of a world society by design,
right?
By God's design.
Yeah.
By the way,
we're racing that way by design, right?
And so I think that it was inevitable, but I don't think people really wanted to believe it in America, especially. I think that
we're the exception to the rule.
That's right.
Because because in God we trust was on our money.
Yeah.
And so that made it okay to want to have a lot of money and be reliant upon our government to make sure we had everything that we wanted.
Comfort, securities,
comforts and all
things,
that. Yeah. So it was easy to fall into that. And I don't fault anybody really. I just think if you're not strong in what you believe, it's easy for it to be stripped away from you.
Yeah.
With it, I mean, I look at the Roman Empire, and I think about those Christians and how shocked they probably were when they would walk down the streets and see their neighbor hanging on the wall, lit up like a torch, and thinking, well, how did we get here? Well, it probably was pretty similar to what we're seeing now. It started gradual, and then all of a sudden things just kind of snowball, and you get into a situation where it's rapidly changing. I was laughing because Doug was saying, in 2019, well, I know these changes are coming, but I just don't see how they can, they can't change the money system that fast, and they can't do this that fast, and then like 3 months later, he was like, I just didn't know this could happen.
Yeah, I remember having the conversation, and he's like, how in the world did it happen that fast?
Right.
Yes.
But the foundation was laid long before.
Long ago.
Yeah, but and we are subjected because now we're placing our trust in systems. You think Matthew 6 is talking about that stuff where he says you can't serve both God and wealth. And America has really established that trust, a foundation of
Well,
it's on our lists,
Yes.
the future and the security and things like that. So, how do you manage it? When you get into a place, obviously you said you turn the television off and you try to shut off all those things. But I mean, is there other tools that maybe you got? I mean, how do you manage the worry? How do you manage the doubt?
Well, first of all, you have to decide the things it's good to make a list of things like we did with our worries, because you look at those lists and you can tell what do you have power to control and what do you have power that you have no power over. Like climate change, I can only do such a tiny amount in myself to change that. But if I do what I can do, then I can let that go because I'm doing everything I can do. My government,
unless you're trying to get other people to do the same thing, which is you can't control that.
Right,
that's
you
true.
can't control
But
See, it's all about your individual responsibility, and this is with every single worry you have. You look at what you can control and what you have power over, and you have to learn to let go of the things you cannot.
so give me some examples of things that I don't have control over.
You do not have control over your government. you
I don't like that. I'm not happy about this.
You voted, and that's about the end of it.
Well, I could tell you that I did not control the outcome of that vote.
Yeah.
I'm just
Okay.
saying.
But what I'm saying is, once that's done, all the ranting, raving, fighting, getting bitter about it, all of that stuff, all that does is hurt you. It doesn't really do anything to change your government. Now, I know that people say, well, you got to get out and you got to protest and you got to. I'm not of that. I'm not really one of those people that believes that way. I believe that if I do what I'm supposed to do, God will take care of what God's supposed to do. And I don't think that getting out and protesting something will necessarily cause the right change. I think that gives, a lot of times that gives a bad testimony of what I believe. And I'm not against anybody that feels differently. They can do what they want. I have to do what I feel the Holy Spirit tells me to do.
Yeah, I believe in picketing. I just don't know how to show it.
Anyhow,
I'm trying here, guys. I'm trying. Good grief.
you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
If you take control of what we had a saying when I was in undergraduate school about you do what you can and you don't worry about what you can't. Because when you start to worry about the things you can't, that's why Jesus said, "What good does it do you? You can't add an inch to your height."
Right.
Just worrying about it, that it won't work.
So you can't control government.
You can't control your health. I mean, you can do the right things,
Do your
but
part.
There's no guarantees. You see what I'm saying? I mean, if you've smoked all your life, chances are something bad's going to happen. Okay, by the choices that you've made. That's what I'm talking about when I say you do what you can do.
You can control things that you can do.
Right.
Yeah.
But like if I'm in an office and there's people all around me and they're all drinking, smoking and doing, whatever, and I'm in that environment, I really don't have much control, but I can control what I'm doing, but I cannot control those people.
Right.
See,
You can try, but
but no, you'll never succeed.
Never succeed it.
Anytime you try to push your control on someone else or try to get them to do what you want, you'll find that it's very likely you will fail.
Now I hear this, and I'm hearing the internal motivation of trying to change somebody, but you do want to give information.
You can give information. It's not like they don't already know it.
That's probably true. Yeah.
What is your motive for giving them the information is the key word.
And you can control that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could control the motive behind that.
And in the spirit in which it's given.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I mean, if I'm counseling someone that's overwhelmed with worry, chances are they're not going to listen to what I say anyway. But the things that I try to tell them are, what can you do about that? What's your part in that? How are you playing a part in what you're worried about? And that way it makes them think about, well, is there something that I can control? And if there isn't, why are you wasting your time on it?
That's a good point.
I mean, if you can't do anything about it, what's the point?
Yeah.
You're not going to get anywhere.
So how do you tell a parent? I mean, obviously you can't control other people, and do your kids fall under that? I'm talking to my mother. This is so the danger here is asking your mother this question and knowing that she has all of this information.
She has an arsenal.
Yes. So knowing that we're on the air, Mom. So there's elements of what you can and what you cannot control. Like, and that's a powerful statement to me. You have to identify what things you can do and the things that you can't do. You do the things you can control, the things that you can't control. And so a lot of ways, I'm asking myself while we're having the conversation, so what level do I take that? With my kids, especially, there are things that I can control. Internet. I can control the internet, but does that play into that, or when does that become almost manipulative if we're not careful?
Well, it's true. You bend a tree when it's young. Yeah. And once it's gotten to a certain height, then
you cut it down. Oh no!
Once that's pretty harsh.
Yeah. Okay.
When it reaches a certain point, you no longer have the ability to bend that tree the direction. If it's crooked, it's going to go crooked. That's why the young years are so important. You teach them that's why.
What do you identify as the young years then?
I would say anything under preteen, like 12 and under. They tell us in psychology that people's general personalities are almost completely developed as far as what they're going to be like by the time they're 5.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
And so that's why child abuse and stuff and
it varies obviously with the child,
right?
Because there's no cookie cutter thing.
Well, right. But I'm just saying that's what the textbooks would say is that by 5 they're pretty much who they're going to be. The rest of it's developing. Their id has to develop, and they have to get a conscience, and all that stuff plays into it. But
the id,
and the super ego and the ego and all those things that Freud gave us, but don't mean anything. Anyway,
thank you, Freud.
But what if you've been taught? That was my goal as a parent, was to teach my kids right and wrong from the very earliest that I could. That's why I drugged my children, drug them to church.
I was a drug baby.
Yeah.
Yep. Drug to church.
Every time the doors were open, we were there for something. It didn't even have to be anything special. If it was choir practice, we were there.
But hey, let's talk about that though. Yeah. But there are things that I don't worry about because I believe that I was a drug baby, and there are things that are important to me that I do worry about because I was a drug baby.
True.
But you notice that a lot of the concerns, there's a mass exodus from gathering together, especially from last year because of the fears of the the COVID. And now you're getting concerns of a generation that's being raised without gathering, without church, without what the Greeks call koinonia. And so I'm wondering, finding that common thread of what you're talking about, you're noticing that there's a lot of worries and a lot of things that are based off of the fact that people aren't taking their kids anymore. They're not drugging. In fact, it's good if we get them there once a week for 2 hours. And even then they're griping at the fact that there's 2 hours. I'm not talking about it any place specific, by the way, but but anyways. So do you think that a lot of the things that we're worried about are, this is a very, very deep question, very telling question for me. Do you think that we make our bed and sometimes we're worried that we're going to have to sleep in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know I am. I know that that's one of the big, every day that goes on in my head. Did I do something here to, promote this thought that's coming? It's torturing me. So what did I do? Why is this torturing me? What am I thinking? That's the biggest question I ask myself every single day.
So what do you do with that?
I have to rethink, and it's not an easy answer. Years and years and years of practicing taking my thoughts captive.
Oh, that's a 2 Corinthians thing.
I've heard that before somewhere.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, I do find myself being I can let myself go off into these fear motivated things and get panicky, and I do have days where I curl up in the corner and cry about things because I've allowed myself to get into that.
So
and
I have a question, if
Sure.
I can interject for a second.
Absolutely, yeah, come on.
Is it okay to have days like that
Sure.
where you're just curled up in the corner?
No,
and
you got to be
crying?
perfect
No.
every day.
yes,
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You're not.
You can't have any worries.
no, it is absolutely that it's part of being a human being.
Yeah.
And some days you just need a good cry.
Yeah.
Okay, but
really,
Mike, then what do I do with those verses then? If it says don't worry,
Don't
and then
worry.
I find myself worrying.
Yeah.
And it's okay
You
to
have
do
to-
that.
You
That's-
take captive the thought.
You take it captive. It's
Those
okay.
are opportunities to practice, is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
You it's like anything else in your life. If you're going to be good at it, you got to practice it, and it takes the whole life.
So you're
Just
saying if you have those days where you just curl up in a corner and cry, that's
It's
practice
okay.
for taking every thought captive.
Well, you have to remind yourself it's okay. It's okay to go there.
But
It's
not
not
dwell
okay.
there.
Don't stay there.
Okay.
You get
That makes
we
sense.
we used to when I'm doing counseling with people that are depressed, I tell them you give yourself 5 minutes and
Yeah,
you think about that for 5 minutes, and at the end and set a timer. Set a timer, and when your 5 minutes is up, you
You're
tell
done.
yourself, okay, I'm not allowed to think about this anymore, because
Wow.
then it becomes wallowing, and it becomes
Yeah.
it becomes
Something else.
Yes,
Yeah.
something that can push you into a really dark place.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you say, no, there are plenty of there's other tools that you use.
I mean, not to oversimplify, but is that one of the reasons if you're ruminating on worry, and you're ruminating in anxiety, that can lead to. I'm just asking the professional here. That can lead to depression
Sure.
and hopelessness. Yeah, suicide.
Even physical illness, not just mentally stressed, but
Oh, so
Yeah.
you're saying that
Yes.
worry is not just a spiritual issue; it can also affect inside.
it will affect
Wow.
every aspect
Oh,
of your
my.
body. Yes,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
it will affect you physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Wow.
And I guess if you're saying, okay, so you get this worry that presents itself, and it's impossible. Am I hearing this right? Is it impossible for us not to worry?
I won't say it's impossible. I just don't.
It's not probable.
I've never met anyone that didn't.
Yeah. I mean, listen to the scripture. The David. I mean, he was worried all the time. He wrote it in his poems, but yet he would bring himself out of that by the end of it. He was proclaiming his where his strength is, and where his hope is, and where his trust is. So.
That's true. It's absolutely true.
And he was a man after God's own heart.
Yeah.
So
at the end.
At times,
At the end.
yeah.
yeah.
Well, in the middle.
In
He
the
made
middle.
some-
Yeah, in the middle.
He made some poor
middle to
choices.
the end. No, I mean, it's true. And there's a reason that we're taught. I mean, there's like a whole lot of scriptures that say to fear not.
Yeah. It's all through
and
there.
it gives
That's another
you-
podcast, by the way. We're going to be doing that in
and they
October.
give- and there's lots of little things that they add with it to tell you how not to fear.
Right.
Okay. But the problem is, can you do that and be a human being? Yes. But you have to place your trust in that.
Is fear and worry the same thing?
Basically, fear leads to worry. Worry leads to fear.
So you're saying that if we're ruminating, it's more worry. Fear is the initial thought of, oh, this could happen, and I'm fearful. But fear is what leads to worry. And if I'm ruminating on the fear, then it's leading to worry. If I ruminate on worry, then the progression of that could go into depression or other things that are physical that can hurt you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's it. It's not just cut and dried but they do go hand in hand. I don't think that you worry about things unless you're afraid of them.
So it is a natural progression, is what you're
It's a natural
saying.
thing. Yeah.
So
it's like, chicken without dumplings.
Yeah. It's not the same.
Hold on. I've got to respond to that. That is not supposed to happen. That is the worst story I've heard.
Yeah.
I have now replaced my top. It's a chicken without dumplings. What in the world?
But you just don't. It goes together. They go together. When you have fear, you will think about it unless you make yourself stop thinking that way. And the only way I know of to make myself stop thinking about something that scares me is to go, I have Jesus. I have God. I don't have to fear this because I know him. I know he's
Yeah.
By the way,
faithful.
that scripture is 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5 and 6. And the precursor to that is our weapons are not of this world, but they are mighty through God.
By the pulling down
Yep.
of strongholds.
So you're taking every thought captive and you're making it obedient. Like when I make my kids be obedient, and I did have that power a long time ago. My kids are now 19 and 17, and so I can't make them do much anymore. But what I could do back then, I could make them. Well, I can still do that with my mind, is what you're saying. I can take those thoughts captive and make them obedient. But you're also saying that when those things present themselves, that it's okay to allot yourself a time to go and react, because it's unnatural not to have reaction, is what you're saying.
Well, if you don't, it can also cause issues. Most of my job is to help people see the things they don't want to see in themselves. I mean, that's,
well, thanks a lot.
I mean, no, it's just because we'll go through life thinking we're doing everything, because we know like you're always saying, we know our intentions. And not everybody does.
Right.
Yeah.
So when people come in and say that they are having these issues with depression, the first thing I have to do is find out what's going on in their head. And I have to find out, what is it that you're thinking? How are you thinking about this?
Right.
And most of the time it's always a negative connotation of something.
Shame, guilt, fear,
right.
worry.
I did this when I was 12, and now I'm 65, and I still think about that thing that I did. And so it's a not releasing that thing, not letting God take that thing and say, I have cleansed you from that.
Oh, wow.
Now you have to let go of it. Don't keep holding on to the thing that you think that you did against me. I've let it go. Now it's up to you to let it go. And people have a hard time with that, because forgiving ourselves is very difficult at times.
Oh my.
So
yeah.
I can forgive other people a lot easier than I can myself.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Okay, so let's make this. I mean, let's make this as real as we possibly can. Excuse me. I know that there are a lot of people out there. What do you think of this statement that fear is the opposite of faith? Do you agree with that statement, or do you think that it's deeper than that?
I think there's more to it than that. I think we try to oversimplify things sometimes in the spiritual world or in religion.
Sounds good on a t-shirt.
And I think the reason...
Is doubt the opposite of trust?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. So is it healthy to have doubts?
It depends on what you're doubting.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that. I knew you'd say that.
If you're doubting God, yes, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, I'm from a spiritual standpoint, the questions, if you're honestly looking to have resolution to those questions, again, it has to do with
Your heart.
the intent, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm ruminating on worry because I feel that it empowers me to do other things, I don't think that's healthy, like you were talking about. But if I have a doubt that's leading me in questions to the Lord, I think there are plenty of scriptures that talk about where someone who has honestly had a doubt that had gone to God and expressed that doubt to the Lord, that was a very healthy context for doubt. So I can't say that all doubt is opposite of trust.
No, I didn't say that.
No, I'm just saying, I know you didn't say that.
Yeah.
I'm corroborating your story.
Yes.
That in the context, there are certain things for doubt. But doubting God, even, those fears and that doubt in that context where the heart is wanting to understand, it can't be too bad if it's leading to a discovery of who God is.
True.
Yeah, because Jesus did show Thomas his scars.
Yeah,
True.
and he did talk to Job. And he talked to Moses in the doubts, and so it's relational.
Right.
But what you're saying is if it's a continual process where you're ruminating on this thing, is doubt sin?
I'm not God, so I struggle with that because so many things. I haven't walked in anybody else's shoes but mine.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, how much of it is brought on by the past history, the things that have occurred in their lives that cause them doubt, cause them to be fearful.
So are you saying that there's a line in everyone's
No.
heart that
No, I just know that unless you can completely Give your trust to God. You will continually, and I know this because I do this. I struggle with worries and fears about things, and I know that the thing that gets me there is that I have to when I call myself back into, all right, Carla, get on it now. Is you can trust God.
Right.
Look what He has done in your past.
You're taking them captive and making them obedient.
And if I have to, I get out a pen and paper and I start putting down, remember when you had this problem and look what happened.
That's a great reason. So you're saying journaling. You're saying.
Yes. Journaling is great.
Yes.
Writing letters to God is great because sometimes writing it down, you see, and there have been times I've started writing in anger because I'm angry at God about something, and I get halfway through and go, boy, does this sound stupid? What am I doing? And then it brings me back to He has always been faithful. Yeah. He has always come through for you. Not always in the way I wanted it to be, but if I just keep trusting and keep walking, He shows up, and it's always happened. Yeah. So I know from my past that I can trust Him with my future.
You had we were talking beforehand, and you had a scripture that you said was one of your favorite verses, and I think it probably plays into, because you just said journaling is a tool. Yes. But there's also another tool that Philippians talks about.
That's right. And this is my favorite scripture. I read this at least twice a week. Because it's just a wonderful thing. And it is very good for my mental health. It's Philippians 4:4. It says, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Let your gentle spirit be known to all people. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and pleading with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence and if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And that is my motto. Yeah. If I hear something that I think is not in that criteria, I try to just let it go over my head if I can. And there's just sometimes, though, that you're, depending on where you are in your life, in your walk with God, that you can't, it just seems like sometimes the voice is so loud, the roar is so loud, that it's hard to reach out and go, I take these thoughts and I'm going to put them where they belong. Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, I think some of us almost find solace in the recognition of the worry. And so when that worry comes, it almost feels like, for me, it almost feels like I have somewhat of control, and I grip it. I want to hold on to it. I want to look at it. I want to study it. I want to see what it looks like. I want to look at it in its face, and that's not healthy for me. No. You're saying that I've got to learn to take it captive, but don't internalize it. No, you need to surrender that. That's what you just read. Is
let it go.
Yeah,
let it go.
And the peace of God, which transcends what?
All understanding.
So that means I'm going to have to surrender my understanding too.
Yeah.
Ooh.
What?
That means you won't doubt.
I don't like this. This isn't what I did not bring you in here to convict me. It also says in Proverbs chapter 3, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. But again, what can you control and what can't you control? So what can I control? I can give my understanding. I can give my life, which is Romans 12, offer my life a living sacrifice. This sounds like a conversation I had recently, but it's literally a surrendering of that worry to Him, bringing those things and taking on what His burden is. And all of this stuff is just starting to flood my mind from my conversation. Mom, I'm just gonna lay this out here. I want everybody to know.
I love my mama very much. Now you know that.
Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody knows that. Thank you so much, Dr. Carla Letsch, for coming on here and illuminating this. It's a very practical but very relevant topic in today's society. I know there are people that are listening right now that are getting something from it.
That's really good.
And I really appreciate you coming on here and being a part. And of course, you're going to be back. You know you're coming back because you've already got it scheduled. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming in. We're going to go ahead and go to our song of the week. And this one is by Fadestrange. This is a song that we wrote well before we started doing the album. One of the first songs that I wrote.
I love this song.
Oh, you like this song, do you,
yes,
Steve?
It's one of my favorites.
It's called Arms of Christ, and hope it. I'm gonna act like I'm about to start a special song at service. I'm gonna go help it minister to you.
It will minister, I promise.
When storms arise and problems come, I know that I can fall upon the arms of Christ. The arms of Christ. When life becomes a mystery, it's here I find security in the arms of Christ. The arms of Christ. Though the rains may fall and winds they blow, there's a place that I can safely go in the arms of Christ. In the arms of Christ. Never alone, never afraid, safe from all alarms. In the arms of Christ. Oh yeah. When storms arise and problems come, I know that I can fall upon the arms of Christ. The arms of Christ. When life becomes a mystery, it's here I find security in the arms of Christ. The arms of Christ. Though the rains may fall and the winds they may blow, there's a place that I can safely go in the arms of Christ. In the arms of Christ. Never alone, never afraid, safe from all alarms. In the arms of Christ. Oh, in the arms of Christ. In the arms of Christ. Never alone, never afraid, safe from all alarms. In the arms of Christ.
There's a lot to think about with what we've talked about today. And again, thank you to Dr. Carla Letsch for coming in and giving us a great perspective, some great tools on how to combat this. One of the things I love about what she said was you got to find out what you can do, what you can control, and find out the things that what you can't control. And we were talking about it during the break. Steve was saying the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I listened to that song, and one of the things I heard was never alone, never afraid, safe from all alarm, in the arms of Christ. And I think the abiding in, when I'm thinking about my life,
You wrote this song.
Right, I know. When I'm thinking, I know I wrote that song, but I'm saying,
So you know what you were
when
thinking
I
in
when
your
I
life.
think about in my life, the reason why that makes sense to me, those lyrics, because in life you're going to fear, you're going to have those moments of knee jerk reactions where I'm afraid. When when Grayson called, that's my youngest son, last year in November, I was at a gig and he called and he said, I've had a wreck. He texted because I was setting up and I didn't get his call initially, and I've been in a wreck. And immediately, it wasn't like, it didn't just go, well, I'm going to warm up to this worry. No, it's like it gripped my heart, and you're going to have it. And I think the difference between people that know who God is, people that, it's like when there was a storm and Dad and Mom were home, and I was there. I knew that they were there with me. I knew that they had me, that I was abiding not only under the house, but I was under their protection. It was also the difference when I was home alone and I heard weird noises outside, even if it was nothing, the fact that they weren't there, the fact that they weren't there to offer the protection. It's different when you're in the arms of someone who can offer that, or abiding in the house of that person. You know that you're under that protection. It lends to that statement in Philippians 4 where it says, the Lord is near.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He's not far off. He's there.
He's near.
And so you need to put your trust into that. And that's going to help me pull the 2 Corinthians 10 move, the maneuver. I'm going to call it the maneuver, where I'm going to ransack these thoughts. They're going to come.
Yeah, they will.
They will.
And Megan, you were saying that it's hard even when they come in.
Yeah, when you identify the things that you can't control, just relinquishing that control. For me specifically, that is one of the hardest things to do because I tend to want to control things, I've discovered. And just to say, okay, I got to lay this at God's feet and I got to actually let go. There's peace that comes with that. And you're just able to rest and go, okay, I can't control this, so there's no sense in worrying about it, and just trying to learn how to go through that process and just say, this is not for me to handle.
I think another healthy question that we can all ask ourselves is, how much time do we spend worrying about things that we can't control?
Too much.
Yeah.
And then the words of Yoda.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
That's right. You have to do it. You have to unlearn the thinking. And what Dr. Carla was saying was, when you're taking those thoughts captive, you are training yourself to rethink. You're reestablishing not only what things you can do about those things, and you are also establishing what things you can't, and making sure that you dismiss the things that you can't, and full trust. Man, what a great podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yes.
It just gets better.
Yes.
Every time.
You can come back anytime.
Yeah,
Doctor, she's still in
Loved
the room. We're acting like she's not in the room, but she's still in the room.
Yeah.
And in fact, she's always in my room somehow. In my head, she's there. She's there. When I'm about to make a boneheaded decision, Mom's there. When I do something great, Mom's there. It's just it is a blessing. Okay.
Yes.
To have parents like my parents,
Yes,
and
very
it's
much
just an
so.
incredible blessing. And I'm all of you guys. I met your mom and dad, May. I've met your parents, Steve. We are just incredibly blessed to have the parents that we do. And they have instilled in us some really great things.
Yes.
And some of that is connected to the worries that we face.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that worry is, and I've said this from the pulpit, there's a difference between worry and concern. I think the Lord concerns himself with things all the time. I think that he gets concerned about his kids. But I don't think he sits there and ponders and twiddles his thumb and worries about you. I think he knows what he was able to do and what he's able to give and offer, and he's allowing you now in relationship to choose what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So I have another question, if I can ask.
Well, of course you can. That's
Okay.
part of the podcast.
I'm always full of questions.
That's good.
So on that note, what you said, he knows what he can do. Does he have to let go?
That's a whole nother podcast.
And just say, this is for my child to handle.
That's coming soon to a podcast near you. It absolutely is a theological discussion that we probably should have on a podcast, and it's on the schedule, believe it or not. it begs the question: what is God is able to do anything? But does God do anything and everything? And are there ways that God limits himself? Is there ways that God says that he's not going to do this in benefit of free will? These are all good, great questions. None of which we have the time to deal with. I wish I could go and go back to what we talked about and just simply say,
Mama said that. My mama said,
but I don't think that's going to happen. It's not in this podcast. It didn't happen. I don't think we tackled that question good enough, but that's a great question.
Yes.
And that's something that we could talk about later on. You guys, let me again say how thankful we are for the opportunity to be able to enter your lives by way of this podcast. Thank you so much for listening in, to all of you that are doing that. And for those of you that are supporting the podcast, if you are monetarily giving or even contemplating giving, I want to tell you how much we appreciate it. That gives us the opportunity to do different things with the podcast, to be able to pay our monthly fee for the podcasting, hosting, all that stuff. And if you're getting any enjoyment whatsoever, please consider doing that. But we're getting some great responses from you guys. I know some of you are listening, some great questions. I had some great questions this week over the worship conversation that we had last week, and it was great. We'd love to hear from you. I'm just telling you. I also want to thank again Crossroads Community Church of Lindale for sponsoring the podcast and allowing us the opportunity to broadcast to you from their podcast studio. It's an awesome podcast studio here in Lindale, Texas. I want you to go and check out their Facebook page at C3 Lindale. And listen, if you're going through things or just have some things that you need to talk through, give us a message on Facebook at the PT Podcast. We really want the opportunity to listen and pray with you. So maybe you are finding yourself struggling with worry, doubt, or fear of the unknown. And I know that we struggle with the same stuff. You're not alone. Every one of us are going through that stuff right now in the culture that we're in. But maybe you just need someone to talk to. We'd love to hear from you. I know that Dr. Carla would love to talk with you. And you can reach us or her through our page on Facebook at the PT Podcast. But even more than that, though, I know that Jesus would love to hear from you. So right now, if you're going through that stuff, I just want you to take a moment right where you are and talk to him. Just talk to him. There's not a formula. It's not a formulaic equation. He already knows your heart. That's the cool thing about God. Just begin by saying his name, almost kind of like a letter, dear God, and just start talking to him right where you are. Just express yourself. Tell him what you're going through. Even though he knows it, he wants to hear from you. And that's exactly what Philippians 4 says. It says, give those things to him. Let cast your care on him, all that stuff. So I want you to know that. And then I want you to allow the peace of God to come in. And how does that happen? After you get done, get to a still place. I want you to listen to him, open a Bible, start reading it. You may be surprised what happens in that moment. It's pretty magical. And really just how clear God can be in that moment. So I'm praying for every one of the listeners that are listening every week. Next week is going to be a doozy. And when I say a doozy, it's going to be probably one of the most controversial topics that we will talk about. There's one that's right up there with it. Steve is even scared of one of them. I'm not going to tell you which one that one is. But this one is on the hot topic of cussing. Ooh. What is and what is not cussing. The Irishman specifically requested that we not do that one this week because he wants to talk about cussing. And we're going to be tackling that controversial subject head on. So we hope to see you then. But till then,
this is Megan Haskett,
Steve Howard,
and I'm Tim Letsch, PT, signing off. If no one has told you, I hope you know it, but God loves you, and so do I. We'll catch you here next week here on the PT Podcast.